No weapons in the meeting room. They said so the human built an armory outside Part 5. The resolution that the journey home felt different from the journey there. When they had traveled to Neutral Station 7, the air had been heavy with fear and uncertainty. Now, as the shuttle flew back toward the morning star, Ji-won felt something she had not felt in weeks. Relief. Lieutenant Yoon-hana sat beside her, staring at the copy of the treaty on her tablet. She read it again and again, as if she could not believe what had happened. "We did it," she said quietly. "We actually did it." Ji-won nodded. She was tired, more tired than she had ever been in her life. But underneath the tiredness was a warm glow of satisfaction. "We did," she agreed. But it was not just us. It took everyone. Captain Kang, Sergeant Beak, every engineer who worked through the night, every person who believed that we could find another way. Hannah looked up from her tablet. "Ambassador, can I ask you something?" "Of course. Were you scared?" "In there, when Tal showed us his blade, when he threatened us. Were you scared?" Ji-won thought about the question. She remembered the moment when Tal's arm had changed, when that silver blade had appeared just centimeters from her face. She remembered the cold certainty that she could die in the next second. "Yes," she said honestly. "I was terrified. But I could not let him see that. Fear is a weapon, Hana. The Valari have used it for centuries. They are experts at making others afraid. The only way to beat them was to refuse to be afraid. Or at least, to refuse to show it. How did you do that?" "I thought about all the people counting on me. The 2 million people on those colony worlds. The families who would lose their homes. The children who would grow up without a future. When I thought about them, I found the strength to keep going." Hannah nodded slowly. She seemed to understand. The shuttle docked with the Morning Star a few minutes later. Captain Kan Do-yeon and Sergeant Beek Soo-jin were waiting for them in the hangar bay. Do-hyun was grinning widely. Soo-jin's face was calm, but there was a spark of pride in her eyes. "Ambassador," Do-hyun said, stepping forward to shake her hand. "That was the most exciting thing I have ever watched. When you told them to try you, I thought Soo-jin was going to fire without waiting for orders." Soo-jin shrugged. "I had my finger on the button, just in case." "I appreciate your patience," Ji-won said with a small smile. "Both of you. What you built here was incredible. Without the Morning Star, none of this would have been possible." "It was our honor," Do-hyun replied. "Besides, it was actually fun. I have not had this much excitement since my 3rd war." They walked together through the corridors of the ship. Around them, crew members were celebrating quietly. Some were hugging. Others were laughing with relief. The tension that had filled the ship for days was finally gone. Ji-won stopped at a window and looked out at the stars. Somewhere out there, Neutral Station 7 was growing smaller as they moved away from it. And somewhere even farther away, the Valari were returning to their home with a treaty that would change everything. "What happens now?" Soo-jin asked, standing beside her. "Now we go home," Ji-won said. "We present the treaty to our government. We begin the work of building a real peace. It will take years, maybe decades. There will be problems and disagreements. But the foundation is there. Do you think it will last?" Hannah asked. "The Valari have been conquerors for so long. Can they really change?" "I do not know," Ji-won admitted. "But I hope so." Today, they saw something they had never seen before. They saw that they are not untouchable. They saw that other species can fight back. Maybe that will make them think twice before threatening others. Do-hyun laughed. Or maybe it will just make them angrier. Perhaps. But that is a problem for tomorrow. Today, we celebrate. The Morning Star began its long journey back to Earth. As it flew through the darkness of space, news of what had happened spread across the galaxy. Somehow, despite all efforts to keep it secret, the story leaked. Within hours, every species in the galaxy knew what the humans had done. They knew about the Valari's demands. They knew about the trap that had been set. And they knew about the armory, the beautiful, deadly armory that had floated outside the meeting room window. Reactions were mixed. Some species were angry that humans had broken the spirit of the sacred rule. Others were impressed by their creativity. But everyone agreed on one thing. Humanity was not to be underestimated. On the planet of the Tauron, a species that had been paying tribute to the Valari for centuries, there were quiet celebrations in the streets. On the moons of Karak, where the Valari had crushed a rebellion 300 years ago, survivors whispered to each other about the possibility of freedom. And in the great councils of the galaxy, diplomats and leaders began to reconsider their relationships with both the Valari and the humans. 2 weeks later, G1 stood before the Earth Council and presented her report. The chamber was full. Every seat was taken. Every screen and every home on the planet was showing her face. She spoke clearly and calmly, telling the story of what had happened at Neutral Station 7. When she finished, there was silence. Then, slowly, the applause began. It grew louder and louder until it filled the entire chamber like thunder. G1 did not smile. She simply bowed her head slightly and waited for the noise to die down. "This is not a victory," she said when she could speak again. "This is a beginning. The treaty with the Valari is just the first step. There are many other challenges ahead. Many other species who will test us. Many other traps we will need to avoid. But today, we have proven something important." She paused and looked around the room. "We have proven that humans can survive in this galaxy, not by being the strongest or the most violent, but by being smart, by finding solutions that others cannot see, by building around obstacles instead of through them." In the front row, Captain Kang Dong-hyun sat in his dress uniform, looking uncomfortable in the formal clothes. Next to him, Sergeant Baek Soo-jin was watching G1 with steady eyes. And beside her, Lieutenant Yoon Hana was trying very hard not to cry. "The Valari expected us to follow their rules or to break them," G1 continued. "They never imagined that we would simply build around them. That is what makes us human. We do not accept the choices we are given. We make new choices. We find new paths." She took a deep breath. "Today, our armory floats in space as a symbol that we will not be bullied, that we will not surrender, that we will always find a way. Let the galaxy remember, when they tell us we cannot bring weapons to the table, we will build an armory outside. When they tell us we cannot win, we will change what winning means. When they tell us to give up, we will show them why humans never do." The applause began again, even louder than before, far away on the border of Valari space. Commander Tal stood alone in his quarters and watched the recording of G1's speech. His dark eyes reflected the light of the screen. When it ended, he turned off the display and walked to his window. Outside, the stars burned in the eternal darkness. "Interesting indeed," he said to himself. "Very interesting." On Earth, G1 finally allowed herself to smile. The future was uncertain, as it always was. But for the first time in a long time, it was filled with hope. Humanity had found its place in the galaxy. And it had done so in the most human way possible. Not with war, but with wisdom. Not with violence, but with creativity. Not by following the old rules, but by writing new ones. The sacred rule said no weapons in the meeting room. So they had built an armory outside. And in doing so, they had changed everything. The stars waited. The future beckoned. And humanity was ready. No weapons in the meeting room, they said, so the human built an armory outside Part 4. The meeting room was quiet now. The Valari had sat back down, but their bodies were tense. Through the observation windows, the Morning Star continued to float in space, its weapons still pointed at the station. No one had moved for almost a minute. Commander Tal was the first to speak. His voice was different now. It was still deep and cold, but there was something else in it. Something that sounded almost like respect. "You have violated the spirit of the sacred rule," he said. "But not the letter of it," Jiwan replied calmly. "And in diplomacy, Commander, the letter is all that matters." Tal made a low sound in his throat. This has never been done before. In 500 years of negotiations, no species has ever tried this. Humans are new to the galaxy. We have not yet learned what is impossible. Behind Tal, one of his companions leaned forward. He was smaller than Tal, but his arms looked thicker, more muscular. His voice was harsh when he spoke. "This is an insult," he said. "The collective will not accept this. We should end these humans now and deal with the consequences later." Tal raised a hand to silence him. "Peace, Vor. The human is clever. We must be clever in return." "Clever?" Vior's black eyes burned with anger. "She has brought weapons to a peaceful meeting. She has made us look weak. She has brought weapons to the space outside a peaceful meeting," Tal corrected. "There is a difference. A legal difference that our lawyers will not be able to challenge." He turned back to Jiwan. His dark eyes studied her face, looking for something. Fear, perhaps, or weakness. He found neither. "Tell me, Ambassador," he said slowly, "what do you actually want? You must know that even with your weapons, you cannot defeat the collective. We have thousands of ships. We have millions of soldiers. One small armory in space will not save your species." Jiwan nodded. "You are correct, Commander. If this becomes a war, humanity will suffer greatly. Perhaps we will even lose. But here is what you need to understand about humans. We do not think like other species." "What do you mean?" Jiwan leaned forward slightly. Her voice became quiet, but every word was clear. "When humans face a threat, we do not ask if we can win. We ask what we can take with us when we fall. History has taught us that sometimes the only way to stop a bully is to make sure that bullying us costs more than it is worth. You have seen my armory, but that is just the beginning. Every human colony has weapons. Every human ship has weapons. Every human knows how to fight." She paused, letting her words sink in. "If you attack us, you will win eventually. But how many Valari will die first? How many of your ships will burn? How long will it take? And while you are fighting us, what will the other species do? The ones you have been threatening for centuries. The ones who have been waiting for someone to show them that the Valari can bleed." Tal was silent. His companions shifted uncomfortably. "You are asking us to back down," Tal said finally. "The collective has never backed down." "I am asking you to be smart," Jiwan replied. "There is a difference. Look around you, Commander. The galaxy is changing. New species are rising. Old empires are crumbling. The collective can try to hold on to power with fear and threats, or it can adapt. It can find new ways to be strong. And what would you suggest?" Jiwan smiled slightly. "I would suggest that instead of demanding our colony worlds, we discuss trade agreements. Instead of threatening war, we talk about mutual defense. Instead of enemies, we become partners." Vor laughed harshly. "Partners? With prey?" "We are not prey." Hana spoke for the first time. Her voice was sharp and clear. "We are sitting at this table with enough firepower to destroy the station 10 times over. Prey does not do that." Vor stared at her with his dark eyes. "You are young. You do not understand what we are." "I understand perfectly," Hana replied. "You are strong. You are dangerous. You have conquered many worlds, but you have never met a species like us. We build things. We adapt. We find solutions. 3 days ago, we had nothing. Now we have an armory floating outside your window. Imagine what we could build in 3 months. 3 years. 3 decades. Her words hung in the air. The Valari were quiet. Ji-won felt a surge of pride in her young aide. Hannah had found exactly the right thing to say. She had made the Valari think not about today, but about tomorrow. And tomorrow, humanity would only grow stronger. Tal stood up slowly. He walked to the observation window and looked out at the morning star. For a long moment, he was silent. The lights of the weapons platforms blinked slowly in the darkness of space. "You know what makes the collective powerful?" he said finally, without turning around. "It is not just our bodies. It is not just our weapons. It is our ability to see the truth clearly, to understand what is real and what is not." He turned to face Ji-won. "The truth is this. You are correct. Attacking humanity now would be expensive. Perhaps too expensive. The collective has enemies waiting in the shadows, enemies who would love to see us weakened. And your species." He paused. "Your species is something new. Something we have not seen before. So what do you propose?" Ji-won asked. "I propose that we continue this negotiation, but with different terms." Tal returned to the table and sat down. His companions looked confused, but they said nothing. When Tal spoke, they listened. "The collective will withdraw its demand for your colony worlds," he said. "In exchange, humanity will agree to a border treaty. Your expansion will not come within 5 light years of our territory. Any disputes will be solved through diplomatic channels, not war." Ji-won considered this. It was far better than she had hoped for. But she was a diplomat, and diplomats always push for more. "We can agree to that," she said. "But I have additional terms." Tal's eyes narrowed. "Go on. First, a non-aggression pact. Neither side will attack the other for any reason, for a minimum of 50 years. Second, a trade agreement. Your technology in exchange for our agricultural products. Third, an open communication channel. Direct contact between our governments to resolve any problems before they become conflicts. You ask for much. I am offering something in return. Peace. Real peace, not just the absence of war. And something else. Something that might be valuable to you? What?" Ji-won looked directly into Tal's dark eyes. "Respect. For the first time in centuries, the Valari collective will be seen as a partner, not just a threat. Other species will see that you can negotiate, that you can compromise, that you can be reasonable. That might be worth more than 3 colony worlds." The room was silent again. Tal's companions watched their leader, waiting for his response. Outside, the morning star floated patiently in the darkness. Finally, Tal nodded slowly. "Your terms are acceptable. I will need to discuss them with the collective leadership, but I believe they will agree." Ji-won felt the tension in her body start to release, but she kept her face calm. The negotiation was not over yet. "There is one more thing," Tal said. His voice had an edge to it now. "Your armory. It must leave after we finish here. It cannot remain near our borders." "Agreed," Ji-won said. "Once the treaty is signed, the Morning Star will return to human space." Tal studied her face one more time. Then he made a sound that might have been a sigh. "You are a strange species," he said. "In 500 years, no one has ever spoken to us like this. No one has ever prepared like this. No one has ever been so creative." "Thank you," Ji-won said. "I think it was not entirely a compliment." Tal's dark eyes seemed to soften slightly. "But it was not an insult either. Perhaps your idea of partnership has merit. We shall see. He extended his hand across the table. It was a human gesture, one that Jiwan had not expected him to know. She reached out and took his hand. His skin was cold and hard, like stone. But the handshake was gentle. "Let us write this treaty," Tal said. And so they did. For the next 3 hours, they talked. They argued. They compromised. Point by point, they built an agreement that would shape the future of both species. Hana recorded everything, her fingers moving quickly over her tablet. Outside the window, the morning star continued its silent watch. Sergeant Baek Soo-jin and Captain Kang Do-hyun waited patiently at their stations, ready to fire at any moment. But the order never came. When the treaty was finally complete, both sides signed it with their official marks. Tal pressed his claw into the document, leaving a perfect print. Jiwan added her signature in quick, flowing letters. It was done. "We will meet again, Ambassador Park Ji-won," Tal said as they prepared to leave. "I suspect you will continue to be interesting." "I look forward to it, Commander Tal," Ji-won replied. "And I hope next time I can leave my armory at home." Tal made that grinding sound again. This time, it sounded almost like a real laugh. "Perhaps," he said, "but I would not recommend it. In this galaxy, it is always wise to be prepared." Ji-won smiled. "On that, Commander, we completely agree." "No weapons in the meeting room?" they said, so the human built an armory outside Part 3. The confrontation-neutral Station 7 was an ugly thing. It floated in empty space, far from any star or planet, a massive structure made of gray metal and dark glass. It had been built centuries ago by a species that no longer existed. Now it belonged to everyone and no one. Ambassador Park Ji-won looked at it through the window of her shuttle. She was wearing her best formal clothes, a simple black suit with the symbol of Earth on her shoulder. Her hair was tied back neatly. Her face was calm. Next to her, Lieutenant Yoon-hana was not so calm. She kept checking her tablet, reading the same information again and again. "The morning star is in position," Hana said quietly. "Captain Kang reports all systems ready." "Good." Ji-won did not take her eyes off the station. "Remember, Hana, no matter what happens in there, stay calm. The Valari will try to scare us. That is what they do. Do not let them see fear." "I understand," Hana said. But her hands were shaking slightly. The shuttle docked with the station a few minutes later. Ji-won and Hana walked through long gray corridors, following lights in the floor that showed them the way. The air smelled old and dusty. Their footsteps echoed in the silence. Finally, they reached the meeting room. It was a large circular space with a high ceiling. There were no windows, at least not yet. The walls were covered with screens that currently showed only gray static. In the center of the room was a round table with chairs around it. And standing on the other side of the table were the Valari. Ji-won had seen pictures of them. She had watched videos of their negotiations with other species. But seeing them in person was different. They were huge, almost 3 meters tall, with bodies that looked like they were made of stone and metal. Their gray skin had a dull shine to it, and their small black eyes seemed to absorb all the light in the room. There were 3 of them. The one in the center was slightly taller than the others, with marks on his chest that showed his rank. He was the leader. "Ambassador Park Ji-won," the leader said. His voice was deep and cold, like rocks grinding together. "I am Commander Tal of the Valari Collective. Welcome to this peaceful negotiation." Ji-won walked forward slowly. Her heart was beating fast, but she kept her face perfectly calm. She had practiced this moment 100 times in her mind. "Commander Tal," she said, bowing her head slightly. "Thank you for this invitation. Humanity is honored to participate in peaceful dialogue." Tal made a sound that might have been a laugh. It was not a pleasant sound. "Peaceful dialogue," he repeated. "Yes, that is what we do." Please, sit. They all sat down at the table. G1 and Hannah on one side, the three Valari on the other. The chairs on the human side were too big for them. G1 felt like a child at an adult's table. She knew this was intentional. Let us begin, Tal said. The Valari Collective has noticed that humanity has been expanding into new territories. Some of these territories are close to our borders. This is concerning. We understand your concern, G1 replied carefully. But humanity has followed all galactic laws in our expansion. We have only claimed systems that were unclaimed. Unclaimed by weak species, Tal said. Unclaimed because they knew better than to try. But humans are new. Humans do not understand how the galaxy works. His two companions made that grinding sound again. They were laughing. We have learned much in our short time among the stars, G1 said. We are eager to learn more. Good. Tal leaned forward, his black eyes fixed on J1 like two holes in the darkness. Then let us teach you. The Valari Collective requires humanity to surrender 3 colony worlds. Specifically, the colonies on planets designated as New Hope, Paradise, and Green Valley. These territories are too close to our space. They make us uncomfortable. Hannah's breath caught in her throat. Those 3 colonies held almost 2 million people. Surrender them would mean abandoning families, homes, lives that have been built over decades. That is a significant request, G1 said. Her voice remained steady. Perhaps we could discuss alternative arrangements. Tal shook his head slowly. There are no alternatives. This is not a request, Ambassador. It is a demand. You will surrender these worlds, or you will face the consequences. And what consequences would those be? Tal stood up. He was even more frightening standing, a wall of gray muscle and hidden blades. His companions stood too. You know what we are, Tal said. You know what we can do. Look around this room, Ambassador. There are no weapons here. The sacred rule is clear, but we do not need weapons. He raised his arm. As G1 watched, the arm changed. The gray skin pulled back, revealing a blade that grew from his flesh. It was silver and sharp, catching the light. He moved it slowly through the air, and the soft whisper of cutting was the only sound in the room. Every part of my body is a weapon, Tal said. Every part of every Valari is a weapon. You have come to this meeting room empty-handed. We have not. G1 looked at the blade. It was close enough to touch. One quick movement, and Tal could cut her head from her body. She knew it. He knew it. Everyone in the room knew it thought this was the moment. She smiled. Tal's expression did not change, but she saw something flicker in his dark eyes. Confusion, perhaps? Humans who were about to die did not usually smile. Commander Tal, G1 said, you are correct. Every part of your body is a weapon. And yes, I have come to this meeting room empty-handed. I have followed the sacred rule perfectly. She picked up her communicator from the table. Lieutenant Yoon, she said calmly, please open the observation windows. Hannah pressed a button on her tablet. For a moment, nothing happened. Then the gray walls of the meeting room began to change. The static on the screens disappeared, replaced by transparent panels that showed the space outside the station. And in that space, lit by the distant light of faraway stars, was the morning star. The Valari turned to look. Even with their stone faces, G1 could see their surprise that the morning star no longer looked like a cultural exhibition vessel. All its disguises were gone. Its weapons platforms were extended, fully visible. 20 railguns pointed at the station. 12 plasma batteries glowed with deadly energy. Small dots moved around the ship, hundreds of drones forming a swarm of destruction. What is this? Tal demanded. This is my answer to your demand, Ji-won said. She stood up slowly, facing the massive Valari without fear. You asked me to surrender 3 worlds with 2 million people. My answer is no. You dare to threaten us? I am not threatening anyone, Commander. I am simply showing you something. Look carefully. Not a single weapon has entered this meeting room. Every weapon is outside, exactly where the sacred rule allows them to be. I have broken no laws. I have followed every rule. Tao's blade was still extended. He took a step toward Ji-won, his body tense with rage. One more step, Ji-won said quietly, and Captain Kang will interpret that as an attack. I should mention that every weapon on that ship is locked onto the station. The railguns alone can fire 600 rounds per minute. The plasma batteries can melt through your armor in 3 seconds. And the drones, she let the sentence hang in the air. You would die too, Tao said. Perhaps, Ji-won agreed. But you would definitely die. All of you. Your entire delegation. And when news of this spreads, when the galaxy learns that the Valari tried to intimidate an unarmed diplomatic team, what do you think will happen? How many other species have been waiting for someone to stand up to you? How many would join humanity in what comes next? The room was silent. Tao's blade arm was still raised, but it was shaking slightly. His companions looked at each other with uncertainty in their eyes. You are bluffing, Tao said. Ji-won's communicator crackled. Captain Kang's voice filled the room. Ambassador, this is the Morning Star. We have a clean shot. On your order, we will fire. Just say the word. Ji-won looked at Tao. Her eyes were steady and unafraid. Try me, she said. For a long moment, no one moved. The weapons outside pointed at the station. The Valari stood frozen. Ji-won waited. Then, slowly, Tao's blade began to retract. The silver disappeared back into gray skin. His arm became an arm again. Perhaps, he said, his voice grinding like broken glass. We should discuss this further. Ji-won nodded and sat back down. Perhaps we should. No weapons in the meeting room, they said, so the human built an armory outside Part 2. The preparation captain Kang Do-hyun stood in the middle of his ship and looked at the plans on his tablet. He had been a soldier for 30 years. He had fought in 3 wars. He had seen things that would make most people cry, but he had never seen anything like this. Let me understand this correctly, he said, looking up at the hologram of Ambassador Ji-won. You want me to build a mobile fortress, fill it with every weapon we have, fly it to the neutral station, and park it right outside the meeting room window. And I have 3 days to do this. Ji-won nodded calmly. That is correct, Captain. Do-hyun rubbed his face with his hand. He was a big man, tall and wide, with gray hair and a scar across his chin. He looked tired, but his eyes were bright with something that might have been excitement. You know what? He said. I have been waiting my whole life for someone to give me an order this crazy. Let's do it. He ended the call and turned to his crew. They were standing behind him, waiting. There were 50 of them, the best engineers and technicians in the human fleet. They had heard everything. Well, Do-hyun said, you heard the lady. We have 3 days to do the impossible. Any questions? A young woman stepped forward. Her name was Baek Soo-jin, and she was the sergeant in charge of weapons. She was small but strong, with short black hair and steady hands. She could put together a rifle faster than anyone Do-hyun had ever seen. Sir, she said, what exactly are we building? Do-hyun smiled. It was not a nice smile. It was the smile of a wolf. We are building a message, he said. A message that tells the Valari that humans are not easy prey. Now get to work. The next 3 days were chaos. But it was organized chaos, the kind that humans were very good at. First, they needed a ship. The obvious choice was a warship, but that would be too simple. The Valari might see it and understand what was happening. They needed something that looked innocent but was actually deadly. Do-Yoon found the answer in an old cargo ship called the Morning Star. It was a big ship, almost half a kilometer long with plenty of space inside. On the outside, it looked like a simple transport vessel, perfect for hiding secrets. "We will call it a cultural exhibition vessel," Do-Yoon explained to his team. "Officially, we are bringing human art and history to share with the galaxy. Unofficially, we are bringing death," Sujin said quietly. "I prefer the word security," Do-Yoon replied. "But yes." The work began immediately. Engineers worked day and night, cutting holes in the ship's hull and installing weapon platforms. They added railguns that could fire metal rods at incredible speeds. They installed plasma batteries that could melt through any armor. They built launch bays for autonomous drones, each one carrying enough explosives to destroy a small building. Sujin supervised every detail. She checked every weapon personally, making sure they were perfect. She tested the targeting systems again and again until they could hit a target the size of a coin from 1,000 kilometers away. "These weapons are beautiful," she said one night, running her hand along the smooth surface of a railgun. "The Valari have never seen anything like them." "That is the point," Do-Yoon said. He was standing next to her, watching the workers install armor plates. "The Valari think they are the ultimate weapons. They think no one can hurt them. We are going to show them that they are wrong." Meanwhile, back on Earth, Jiwon and Hannah were working on a different part of the plan. They needed to make sure everything was legal. If the Valari could prove that humans had broken the sacred rule, it would give them an excuse to attack. "I have read the rule 50 times, Hannah said, staring at her screen. Her eyes were red from lack of sleep. "It says that no weapons are permitted inside the meeting chambers. The meeting chambers are defined as the rooms inside the station used for negotiation." "And outside the station?" Jiwon asked. "The rule does not mention the space outside the station. According to galactic law, that space is neutral territory. Anyone can bring anything there, as long as they do not attack first." Jiwon nodded slowly. "So if we bring our weapons and just leave them there, we are not breaking any rules." "Exactly. The Valari cannot say we broke the sacred rule. The weapons will never enter the meeting room." "Good." Jiwon leaned back in her chair. "Now we just need to make sure the Valari understand what those weapons can do." The third day arrived faster than anyone expected. The Morning Star was ready. It looked exactly like a cultural exhibition vessel on the outside, with colorful pictures of Earth painted on its hull. There were images of mountains and oceans, cities and forests. It looked peaceful and friendly, but inside, it was a monster. Every corridor had hidden weapon systems. Every room could be locked down and filled with gas in seconds. And the cargo bay, which was supposed to hold art, was filled with enough firepower to destroy a small fleet. Do-Yoon stood on the bridge and looked at his creation. He felt proud. In 30 years of service, he had never built anything this beautiful. "Report," he said. Sujin stepped forward with her tablet. "All weapons are online, sir. We have 20 railguns, each one capable of firing 10 rounds per minute. We have 12 plasma batteries with a range of 5,000 kilometers. We have 200 autonomous drones, fully armed and ready to launch. We also have 3 nuclear missiles, just in case." "Nuclear missiles?" Do-Yoon raised an eyebrow. "That might be a bit much." "The ambassador said to be prepared for anything," Sujin replied. "I believe in being very prepared." Do-Yoon laughed. "Fair enough. What about the crew?" "Everyone knows their position. We can go from peaceful to combat ready in 30 seconds. "Make it 20. "Yes, sir." The ship launched from Earth's orbit at midnight. It moved slowly at first, then faster and faster as it left the solar system behind. The journey to Neutral Station 7 would take 2 days. That gave the crew time to practice and prepare. They ran drills every few hours. They practiced firing the weapons, launching the drones, and targeting enemy ships. They practiced what to do if the Valari attacked. They practiced what to do if the ambassador gave the order to fire. Do-hyun watched them work and felt something he had not felt in a long time. Hope. For years, humanity had been afraid of the Valari. They had heard stories of what happened to other species who tried to stand against them. They had seen the empty planets, the dead cities, the silence where life used to be. But now, for the first time, they were not just waiting to be attacked. They were preparing to fight back. Not with violence, if they could avoid it, but with strength. Real strength that the Valari could see and understand. On the second day of the journey, Ji-won sent a message to the ship. Her face appeared on the bridge screen, calm and confident. Captain Kang, we will arrive at the station tomorrow morning. Remember, we are not there to start a fight. We are there to finish one before it begins. The Valari need to understand that attacking us would cost them more than they are willing to pay. Understood, Ambassador, Do-hyun replied. My ship and my crew are ready. We will be your shield and your sword. I know you will. Ji-won smiled slightly. And Captain? Try not to enjoy this too much. Do-hyun grinned. No promises, Ambassador. The call ended. The ship continued its journey through the dark space between stars. In the cargo bay, the weapons waited silently. In the bridge, the crew checked their systems one more time. Tomorrow, they would arrive at Neutral Station 7. Tomorrow, they would face the Valari. Tomorrow, they would show the galaxy that humanity was not afraid. Do-hyun looked out the window at the stars. Somewhere out there, the Valari were preparing too. They were probably laughing, thinking about how easy this would be. Another weak species walking into their trap. You have no idea what is coming, Do-hyun whispered to the darkness. No idea at all. Behind him, Sujin was checking her weapons one more time. Her hands moved fast and sure, like they always did. She was not worried. She was ready. They all were. No weapons in the meeting room, they said, so the human built an armory outside Part 1. The message arrived at 3 in the morning. Ambassador Park Ji-won was sleeping in her small apartment on Earth when her communicator started beeping. She opened her eyes slowly and looked at the ceiling for a moment. She already knew this would not be good news. Good news never came at 3 in the morning. She picked up the device and read the message. It was written in the formal language of the Galactic Council. The words were polite, but Ji-won had been a diplomat for 15 years. She could see the threat hiding behind the nice words. The Valari Collective requests the presence of humanity's representative at Neutral Station 7. The purpose is peaceful negotiation regarding territorial boundaries. All parties must follow the sacred rule. No weapons are permitted inside the meeting chambers. Failure to attend will be seen as an act of hostility. Ji-won sat up in her bed. She read the message again. Then she read it a third time. Her heart was beating fast, but her face stayed calm. This was what she had trained for. The Valari. Of all the species in the galaxy, humanity had hoped to avoid them the longest. They were an old race, much older than humans. They had been conquering worlds when humans were still living in caves. And they had a very special way of conquering. They never attacked first. That was not their style. Instead, they invited their enemies to peaceful negotiations. They followed all the rules. They smiled and talked about friendship. And then, when everyone was sitting in the meeting room with no weapons, the Valari showed their true nature. Their bodies were weapons. They had been changing themselves for thousands of years. Their arms could become blades sharper than any sword. Their skin could stop bullets. Their claws could cut through metal. They did not need guns or bombs. They were the guns and bombs. And now they wanted to meet with humanity. G1 got out of bed and walked to her window. Outside, the city of Seoul was quiet. Millions of people were sleeping, not knowing that their future might be decided in the next few days. She felt the weight of responsibility on her shoulders. She picked up her communicator and made a call. A tired voice answered. Lieutenant Yoon Hannah speaking. Hannah, I need you at headquarters in 1 hour. We have a situation. There was a pause. Then Hannah's voice became sharp and alert. I'm on my way. 1 hour later, Ji-won and Hannah were sitting in a small meeting room at the Earth Defense headquarters. The lights were bright, and both women had coffee in their hands. Ji-won showed Hannah the message, and now they were both staring at a screen showing information about the Valari. 12 worlds, Hannah said quietly. They have conquered 12 worlds using these peaceful negotiations. Ji-won nodded. The pattern is always the same. They send a message saying they want to talk. They choose a neutral location with the no weapons rule. Their enemies come thinking they are safe. And then the Valari tear them apart, Hannah finished. Because the rule says no weapons can enter the room. But the Valari don't need to bring weapons. They are the weapons. Exactly. Hannah leaned back in her chair. She was a young woman, only 28 years old, but she had already served in 3 different star systems. She was smart and fast and never afraid to speak her mind. That was why Ji-won had chosen her as her aide. So what do we do? Hannah asked. If we don't go, they will say we are hostile. They will attack our colonies. If we do go, we walk into a trap. Ji-won was quiet for a long moment. She looked at the pictures of the Valari on the screen. They were tall creatures, almost 3 meters high. Their bodies were covered in gray skin that looked like armor. Their eyes were small and black, like a shark's eyes. They had no expression on their faces. There must be a way, Ji-won said slowly. There is always a way. We just need to think differently. Think differently? Hannah raised an eyebrow. Ambassador, with respect, this is not a puzzle game. The Valari have been doing this for centuries. No one has ever beaten them at their own game. That is true, Ji-won agreed. But no one has ever played the game the way I am thinking of playing it. Hannah looked at her with curiosity. What do you mean? Ji-won stood up and walked to the window. Outside, the sun was starting to rise. A new day was beginning. Maybe it would be a day that changed everything. The rule says no weapons in the meeting room, Ji-won said. It does not say anything about weapons outside the meeting room. Hannah frowned. I don't understand. Ji-won turned to face her. There was a small smile on her face. It was the kind of smile that made Hannah feel nervous and excited at the same time. We are going to follow their rule perfectly, Ji-won said. We will not bring a single weapon into that meeting room. But outside the room, we are going to build something the Valari have never seen before. We are going to build an armory. Hannah's eyes went wide. An armory? At a neutral station? Not inside the station. Around it. The rule is very specific, Hannah. No weapons in the meeting chambers. The space outside the station is not a meeting chamber. It is just space. For a moment, Hannah could not speak. Then she started to laugh. It was a surprised laugh, the kind of laugh that comes when someone sees something they never expected. That is insane, she said. That is completely insane. Yes, Ji-won agreed. But will it work? Hannah thought about it. She thought about the exact words of the sacred rule. She thought about the legal definitions of meeting chambers and neutral space. And slowly, her laugh turned into a grin. It might, she said. It actually might work. Then we need to make some calls, Ji-won said. We need ships. We need weapons. We need the best engineers humanity has. And we need them in 3 days. 3 days? That is not much time. No, G1 agreed. But humans have always been good at doing impossible things in very little time. It is one of our best qualities. She picked up her communicator and made another call. This time, a man's voice answered. It was deep and rough, the voice of someone who spent his life working with machines and soldiers. Captain Kang Do-yan here. This better be important, Ambassador. I was having a nice dream about retirement. Captain Kang, Ji-won said, how would you like to do something that has never been done before? There was a pause. Then Do-hyun laughed, a big loud laugh that filled the room through the small speaker. Ambassador Park, you know I can never say no to those words. Tell me everything. And so Ji-won began to explain her plan. Outside, the sun rose higher in the sky. The people of Earth went about their normal lives, not knowing that far away, in the cold darkness of space, something was about to change. Humanity was walking into a trap. But this time, they were not walking in blindly. This time, they were bringing a surprise.